on Tuff Trax, Carolina Crusher is chomping at the bit to gain more ground on the damaged Equalizer. They go toe-to-toe in the battle to crown the world's best monster truck. And USA 1 is bruised but back this week on Tuff Trax. Hi again, everyone. I'm Scott Douglas. Welcome to Tuff Trax. Today, the TNT Monster Truck Challenge brings you to beautiful Atlanta, Georgia, the Omni for action on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. We're looking to determine a national champion, but today they go inside. Right now, I'm standing in the pits, and the Monster Truck Jersey Outlaw is behind me. You can read it. Friends don't let friends drive Chevys. This Ford hopes to back that up today. Trucks go inside a shorter course. It's going to make for some different racing. My colleague Army Armstrong is trackside to get us ready for the action.
Well, thanks, Scott. We're standing in the middle of the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia, with last week's winner, the man that's got the flag, the Carolina Crusher, Gary Porter. Gary, been a while since you had the flag on the truck.
It has. It's been a long time since I had the flag. I made a motor change, and the combination didn't seem to work for me, so I'm back with my old motor and hoping I can keep the flag for a long time now.
Let's talk about a couple of things. Number one, if you're going to win the national championship, currently you're number 2 in those points, you're going to have to keep that flag on that truck.
I am. That's about the only way I can win the national points right now if I win every race from now on out.
The engine, you're indoors, big motor. They haven't put the new rules in effect. You're going to be able to really scream at that wall on the other end of this building. How does that affect your driving?
Well, we're going to have to be very cautious. You know, the wall is, a big factor down there, and we're going to have to be very safety conscious in here.
When it comes down to one or the other, which is more important, that wall or the national championship?
The national points, I don't want to hit the wall, but if that's the only way I can take the win, I'll hit the wall.
Well, Gary, there's a joker in this deck today, the Equalizer. We did not expect him to be back in competition after that awesome flip he took last week.
A lot of people wasn't expecting him to be back. I knew he would be back because the points are so close. If he didn't make it, I would take the points championship, and I knew he would be back.
And he's not going to give them to you by any means, is he?
Oh, no, he's not going to give them to me. I'm going to have to work very hard for him.
Well, let's check and find out what else we're going to be seeing on today's program. Chris?
Thanks, Army. Tuff Trax will be taking you to Conocook, New Hampshire, where super modified 2-wheel drive trucks are competing for valuable points in the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series. This is the second to last event before the end of the season. Ray Carpenter and the Sundance Kid and Ken Lamont and the Midnight Express are neck and neck for first place as we head into Conocook. Also, a little later on in the show, we'll take you behind the scenes for a preview of what it's like for TNT Motorsports to put on an event in a prestigious building such as the Omni here in Atlanta. After all, not only can you see monster truck racing in the Omni, you can see pro basketball, ice hockey, or you can even attend a National Democratic Convention. This is all coming up a little later on, right here on Tuff Trax.
Thanks, Chris. Whenever you see TNT monster truck action, you're normally going to get a chance to really get up close to the trucks, with the pit parties becoming one of the favorite parts of a TNT monster truck challenge event. And you can see how many fans in Atlanta are getting up close and personal. There's Gary Porter signing some autographs, and all the guys really love spending some time with the fans, especially the kids, in the pit parties. Well, coming into today's action, Equalizer leads, but now by just 38 points over Carolina Crusher. USA 1 still firm in third, Gravedigger solid in fourth, Nightlife rounding out that top 5. Then Mad Dog, No Problem, Clydesdale, Wild Hair, and Awesome Kong. Last week, a tremendous flip for the Equalizer. This week, he's back. Armies with owner-builder Gary Cook.
Well, Gary, explain the flip that took place to us last week in Flint, Michigan.
Okay, the front axle, when he landed on the cars the last time, the front axle completely snapped into the drive axle and the housing.
This is very similar to what happened to you. You flipped the truck twice this year. The left front seemed to be the weak point in both flips. Is it the same thing that happened in Richmond?
Right, our axle is really not stout enough for what we're doing. This TNT Renegade circuit has really been rough on the equipment. Our last of the season, the equipment's really getting fatigued. So to get it back together, we had to order an axle out of Houston, Texas. We didn't have any more spare parts, and the housing, we welded it up and did a lot more bracing and strapping under it to get it to last out these last 2-point races.
All year long, your truck has been in question, the technology involved in it, the type suspension you have, and what have you. A lot of people, it looks like they're going to be building trucks like yours. Did you do a little research and development and show them a weak link that they may not have the same problems you did?
Well, most of them had axles heavier than ours to start with. That was one of the reasons our truck has ran so good. It's lighter than most of the other trucks, but we got a little too light on the front axle. We're going to have to change that before next year.
Now, Gary, you yourself have been involved in motorsports for many years, through stock car racing and pulling and everything. You're an owner and a designer and a builder, and you got somebody else driving that truck. What goes through your mind when you see that truck going end over end and the driver sitting up in there?
Well, first thing is the driver, you know. We're friends and business associates, or whatever you want to call it, and, you know, I didn't really realize the difference till you watch somebody in your vehicle, you know, and you worry about them getting hurt. That's your first worry, is them getting hurt.
Equalizer was not the only truck to stagger out of Flint, Michigan. 2 weeks ago, USA 1 Rod Litzow with one of the most frightening crashes of the year. Army in it, too, was at Flint.
Well, the flip that took place in Flint, Michigan was almost like a sprint car accident. It was a snap roll flip. As you can see when he comes off the final jump, Litzow was at the mercy of gravity.
Up and over he went. Now, Rod Litzow is back, but earlier he told Army that he may be taking a sabbatical after this race, with Steve Wilkie taking over the driving.
Rod, the word we're picking up out of the rumor mill is that you're not going to be driving the USA 1 truck indoors this winter.
Yeah, I'm going to step back, and we're running a couple trucks, but the new truck will be coming out, and Steve will start running that for the indoor tour, you know, giving him a chance to get in the seat in that, and by the time we get to the outdoor running, we'll have 2 trucks on tour, so it'll give him an opportunity to get used to the truck indoor, I think.
Well, let me move over here real quick. You brought Steve out. Steve Wilkie, we're familiar with him. You're the crew chief. Steve, step in here a minute. Crew chief, a lot of pressure on you, a whole new ball game, and still more pressure on you. How are you going to handle the driving chores? I know you're not new to driving, but how are you going to handle the chores? And who's going to be your right-hand man? You've been this guy's right-hand man so long. Who are you going to bring in to help you?
Well, it's still kind of up in the air, Army. Mark Gerard, the man who did the Fisherville race with me, he's probably top on the list to be my right-hand man. He knows the most about the truck, and it's a matter of trust between a driver and a crew chief. As far as the driving chores and the pressure, again, I'm going to echo what we said in Fisherville, is that I can't think about that, Army. I got to come out and drive the truck and try and win with it.
Army called him a kamikaze when he talked about USA 1. Here's another one. The popular, immensely popular, Gravedigger with Dennis Anderson out of Chesapeake, Virginia. He'll be racing today here on Tuff Trax. We're also going to be looking at Stomper, at Jersey Outlaw, at Mad Dog, Wild Hair, and all the best from the TNT Monster Truck Challenge in the beautiful Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. That's all coming up on Tuff Trax.
Tuff Trax and the TNT Monster Truck Challenge are brought to you by the Nintendo Entertainment System. Nintendo, now you're playing with power.
Tuff Trax, deep in the heart of Dixie. You're looking at the State Capitol building in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, this week's site for the TNT Monster Truck Challenge here on Tuff Trax. Not in the State Capitol, though, of course, but in an equally magnificent building, the fabulous Omni in Atlanta, getting ready for great side-by-side action. But as you fans of TNT Monster Truck Racing know, before we can get to the side-by-side eliminations, there's a qualifying round. Dennis Anderson's Gravedigger, side-by-side with Wild Hair. This is the qualification run with Dennis Anderson setting the fast time, as Gravedigger, as always, Army letting it all hang out.
Well, that fast time in qualifying pays dividends because it gives him lane choice for the rest of the competition, Scott.
Gravedigger obviously really taking a lot of bounce at the end. Here he is again. Dennis Anderson always going all out. Boy, you can really see the rock'em sock'em back and forth. His time was 4.79 seconds, making him fast qualifier coming into the side-by-side elimination round. And you know, the fans in the Omni love seeing the Digger in action. He's going up against Mopar Magic and Gary Wiggins in our first round. Then we'll see Scott Stevens bring King Crunch out against Nightlight. Stomper and Buffalo Tremor square off, and then it'll be USA 1, battered but still here, taking on the Ford, No Problem, and John Moore. Carolina Crusher, last week's winner, holding that silver flag on Tuff Trax, will take on Clydesdale and Bennett Clark, a hometown boy from Powder Springs, Georgia. And then it's Jersey Outlaw meeting Thunder Chicken and Equalizer, trying to wrap up that World Championship, taking on the Wild Hair. Our first round matchup will send Dennis Anderson's Gravedigger up against Gary Wiggins and Mopar Magic.
Well, Scott, like you were explaining to the people earlier, the indoor course is much shorter. There are basically two obstacles. First of all, there's going to be a ramp right at the base of the front tire. As soon as he moves, he will not only be going forward, he will be going up, he being the driver of the monster truck. They'll have just a second to get settled down, and then, bam, onto the final obstacle, which will be the car's finish line located at the end of the last car. It is going to be quick and sweet.
Dennis Anderson pulls up, tightens up to the start line. So does Gary Wiggins, a North Carolina driver in Mopar Magic, the Dodge. They're side by side and ready to go in our first elimination matchup. Mopar Magic out of there, and it looks like only two-wheel drive for the Digger.
Definitely a problem and definitely a major upset. Dennis Anderson, the Gravedigger, two-wheel drive only. Mopar Magic pulls a major upset.
Obviously, the Digger did get damaged with all that bouncing back and forth in the qualification run, and give the victory to Gary Wiggins. The Gravedigger's out of it. Army's caught up with Dennis Anderson.
Dennis Anderson, it looked like front-wheel drive only to me.
Yeah, it was. We busted a axle shaft in qualifying, and I didn't know it until we come back in to line up. And, you know, and it just doesn't do much in front-wheel drive, especially starting out on a dirt hill.
When you came in a building, you were starting, stopping. Did that give you some indication you were having problems?
Yeah, well, that's what I was doing. I was watching the front wheels and touched the throttle a little bit, and the front wheels would spin, and the rear wheels didn't spin, so I knew I had a problem right then.
So the Gravedigger knocked out of competition, beaten by Gary Wiggins and Mopar Magic. From Arnold, Missouri, there's Starvin' Marvin Smith and the Stopper Chevrolet. His opponent, a young man who's been very impressive this year. That's John Kwasniewski and the Buffalo Tremor.
Well, Scott, you know, I call him Johnny K out of New York, and this young man has impressed me. Probably he's come further in a shorter period of time with this Buffalo Tremor than any monster truck on the tour. This young man is for real. Here's proof of it right here.
On a short course, that was a big victory, winning by more than a length over Stopper. So the victory goes to John Kwasniewski's Buffalo Tremor. Army's going to talk to him.
Well, John, a lot of people seem to think that easy over the first hump's the way to go. It doesn't look like that's the way you're driving today.
No, we're going to go a little bit harder out there. The suspension's working, so I think we can go a little bit harder over the first hill and then nail it coming down.
What about the shutout area in the building?
It's a little bit short, but the brakes are working good. We can handle it.
John Kwasniewski, very impressive in the Buffalo Tremor. You can see the season of beating and battering for USA 1. He's got virtually nothing left up front, but he's still racing.
You know, you can see it on the truck, but I tell you, the driver is going through the same thing. This young man, Rod Litzow, and he's kind of a health fanatic. He really trains and keeps himself in shape. And Scott, if he hadn't been in such good physical shape, I don't think he'd be driving the truck. However, I do think it's caught up with both of them. It's time for him to take a physical rest, and it's time for the truck to take a rest and to get a new driver also.
He's going to meet one of the more consistent trucks on the circuit, and a truck that's been able to stay together. No problem. John Moore out of Lafayette, Tennessee.
John Moore has pulled some upsets this summer. Let's see if he can do it indoors. He would love nothing better than to put the Ford in front of the Chevrolet. No problem in front of USA 1. We're going to find out right now if he can do it as Moore lines up opposite that awesome national champion.
Ford versus Chevrolet, the classic motorsports matchup. Here they hit the cars. USA 1, clearly the winner over John Moore's no problem. Let's send Army over to catch up with the driver, Rod Litzow.
Rod Litzow, any discomfort in driving a truck?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm getting sore. It's hard on my wrist. The bouncing now when I try to shift, and it's getting a little hard on my wrist, but I'm going to play it through. I'll be able to go through tonight.
What do you say? Can you win this thing in Atlanta? You know, you just kind of came in here feeling your way out, but you're looking good now.
Well, I always want to say I'm going to win, but, you know, I can't tell out here. This track is... You just got to play the track right.
When we come back, more first-round racing with King Crunch. Coming your way next on Tuff Trax.
The superstars of monster truck racing on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge, the major league of monster truck racing. And there he is, King Crunch, Scott Stevens, the GMC out of Woodlands, Texas, going up against the Nightlife Chevrolet, Dave Wysorek from Grand Island, Nebraska. Armies, I scanned our matchup sheet. This was one that really jumped out at me as really a toss-up.
It's definitely going to be a toss-up, especially when you stop and consider one of these races in length is less than 5 seconds. What that tells you, no time for a mistake. Anybody boo-boo, they're on the trailer.
King Crunch has had some outstanding runs this year. Wysorek probably has been a little more consistent, as normally Dave will win a round or two and sometimes pop up in the finals. Scott Stevens, when he's been good, he's been very, very good.
Yeah, he's been real tough. Matter of fact, Stevens has to always come back on the end, and he does it again. He leaves late, but he gets there quick. I can't figure it out.
Boy, Wysorek had the early edge, as you said, but in the end, it was Scott Stevens and King Crunch getting the victory.
We're standing with a guy that's got to be happy there's a second half to a race course.
Oh, yeah. You know, I didn't want to come out of the hole very hard. We've been breaking so many transmissions, and we changed. That's why we were a little late right now. We changed the gears a minute ago, because for qualifying, we were geared way low, turned the motor too hard. We put a little faster gear in it, and I wanted to ease it off the line, because I know our truck's quick enough, even though we've only got 40 feet, that it can accelerate real quick.
What's this wall look like on this end?
It's really not no problem, and you know, it's a lot different than outdoors, but you know, we got to adapt real quick, because you know, a lot of races this year, and the walls, they're not going to be that much of a problem.
There you see TNT track official Alan Goss checking out the victims, if you will, the monster truck fodder. For guys like this, Bennett Clark bringing out Clydesdale. And, you know, this is a big race for Bennett Clark and Clydesdale from Powder Springs, Georgia. A homecoming. He's been all over the country racing on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge, but he's back in his home state in front of many of his fans. We asked Bennett Clark about coming back home to Georgia and racing once again in the Peachtree State.
I hope to do real good here. The motor seems to be running real good. The suspension's working pretty good, so I think we have a real good chance of winning this one tonight.
We'll find out right now, because did he get a tough draw? Carolina Crusher, Gary Porter, second in the national point standings, and a guy who really needs to win every time he comes out to track down the equalizer. Crusher won here on Tuff Trax a week ago.
You know, Gary Porter knows he cannot roll over on his Clydesdale truck. He knows Bennett Clark wants to win. Home state, look at this. Bennett Clark moves first. Carolina Crusher has to come from behind to do it, Scott. But Bennett Clark definitely going to play some hardball this weekend.
Not much room for error, but Gary Porter comes from behind to win it.
Last week's winner, Gary Porter, doing exactly what you have to do to stay in contention for the national points chase. Give me a summation of this track here.
It's pretty rough. We having to come off that hill of dirt, and if we come off of it too fast, it's going to cause the trucks, the rear end, to bounce up on us. So we're having to sort of ease over the hill and then just mash it to the floor to hit the set of cars.
The hill is not round. There's a flat spot on the top.
Right. Normally we run a hill and it's round, and this one is flat on the top, and it's causing us, you know, we don't exactly know how to drive it.
So another interesting aspect that we'll watch as we continue with first round elimination action here in the Omni at Atlanta. There you see the Ford, and a guy who's proud to be driving a Ford, Mike Wine, the Jersey Outlaw. His opponent, the Thunder Chicken, Tom Bites, driving Thunder Chicken out of Catawissa, Pennsylvania.
You know, in 1989, the Jersey Outlaw Ford had become a very, very popular truck because of a young man named Mike Wine. A lot of Ford people around the country are really proud of this kid.
That time, however, very close, but the Ford not able to get the job done, as Thunder Chicken, you see it right there, wins by a feather. The win to Tom Bites. Army is standing by with the very popular Mike Wine to talk about that race.
Well, Mike, Thunder Chicken got you on that one. Boy, you took a wild ride right at the end.
Yeah, I got on it too hard on that hill, and it nose dove on me real bad. I got out of it pretty good, so.
What's the ride feel like out there?
Oh, it's real rough. It's like going up a roller coaster and dropping off the other end with no tracks.
Well put by Mike Wine, putting you in the driver's seat with him to feel what it's like driving the course. Of course, a lot of changes. It's been a while since these fellows have been inside.
Yeah, it's been a while. You know, it's kind of interesting what he just said. He's starting to think, I bet that's exactly what it feels like driving one of these big rascals. You go up, you don't know where you're going to come down.
David Morris in his rookie season trying to wrap up the World Championship of Monster Truck Racing in the Equalizer. His opponent, Bob Breen in the Wild Hare. We're going to find out what Equalizer's got coming back from last week's split. Let's see what he has right here. Morris gets it done in the Equalizer, so Army, it looks like he's back full tilt.
Yeah, he hadn't lost a thing. He's right on course.
David Morris in the Equalizer putting away Bob Breen in the Wild Hare. Let's get him coming right at us this time and get a look at Gary Cook's Equalizer driven by David Morris and how strong it looks there. He locks him up, gets on the binders, and stops it down easily in the Omni.
Well, Scott, it looks like everything may not be as smooth as we thought. A little bit of heating problem, word we're getting from the equalizer. I believe he will be back in that next round, though.
Losing some fluid, but again, word is he'll be able to continue racing at Atlanta's Omni. When we come back, two-wheel drive pulling from New Hampshire on the TNT All-American Pulling Series. It's coming at you here on Tuff Trax. Tuff Trax, television's most powerful hour, brings you all the thrills and excitement of the TNT All-American Pulling Series. Here's the way the standings are in two-wheel drive competition. Ray Carpenter's Sundance Kid leading by 80 points over Ken Lamont's Midnight Express. Mike Stowe and Bad Dog, Dan Walsh's Irish Challenger, and Wayne Roush, the Yellow Model T, rounding out the top 5. Then it's Mark Hare and Jack Daniels 6th, with Chevy C-Cab, Sudden Thunder, Honkin' Donkey, and Spikes rounding out the top 10 for the fantastically popular super modified two-wheel drive. Now, once again, we're in Conocook, New Hampshire, and here's your points leader, Ray Carpenter and the Sundance Kid.
Ray Carpenter comes out new to this particular class in the pulling, but he is your current national point leader, and you can see why Carpenter has dialed in some horsepower in New Hampshire, a full pull.
What a way to start.
He made it look easy, Scott.
Ray Carpenter getting a full pull with plenty to spare. The puller from Bettendorf, Iowa gives them all, especially Ken Lamont, something to shoot at.
Yeah, the pressure now immediately goes on Kenny Lamont, setting number 2 in the national point chase. If he doesn't make a full pull, he can really be in trouble. Speaking of trouble, out of the cold Northlands, the Big Green Four, the Walsh brothers are going after the Sundance Kid.
From Linden Station, Wisconsin, he's got to take it out of here to force Carpenter into a pull-off. He's not going to get there. The distance is 277 and change, so Dan Walsh in the Irish Challenger not up to the challenge of catching Ray Carpenter thus far, as Ray kind of talks things over. He's got a feel for the track. He knows if there's a pull-off, he's in it. Here's a guy who could be in it, Wayne Roush.
Yeah, Wayne Roush, now he's currently up in the top 10 on your leaderboard. We were talking about points a moment ago. Roush has always been a player. Where the horsepower can go into the track is what I can't understand. Right now where they're setting, you'll notice it's shadowed. Then they pull out into the sunlight. That will definitely affect the pulling on these vehicles and on the sled that they're going to pull. Let's see where Roush goes for his horsepower immediately. Wayne Roush just comes out and hammers it. Is that the way to do it? It looks good. Weight box comes up. Little bit heavy on the nose. A good run, but not going to be anywhere good enough to go into the lead. Or tie for that lead, Scott.
Yeah, every puller that comes out, these are top dogs, and we're seeing how good, how strong, how amazing that pull for Ray Carpenter was. Now we're really going to find out. Ken Lamont's Midnight Express.
You talk about a pressure pull. The plain old toolbox specialist, Kenny Lamont, comes off the right side of the track, and immediately Lamont goes for the throat, just like a Street Fighter. Keep pulling the trigger on that Chevrolet, working the right side of the track. Not going to do it.
Not even close.
That run could be very, very major in the National Points Championship.
Could be devastating. Didn't even get to the 250-foot mark. So Ken Lamont struggling. As you see track official Tom Carter lining up our next one, it's Bill Humphrey and Spike.
Now, Humphrey, interesting individual here. I'm going to tell you about 3 people real quick. Humphrey's on the starting line. Carpenter's your leader, and Mark Hare sat in the back. The common denominator is Humphrey built all these vehicles. You know that this particular chassis is capable of going out. It's already done it with the Sundance Kid, and it does it again with Spike.
Gone. We've got to pull off for sure, because Spike and Bill Humphrey will be going up against Ray Carpenter and the Sundance Kid and anybody else who can go the distance.
Keep in mind, the 2 vehicles in a pull-off are identical. I mean identical, down to the same man built them has built this truck. You might be seeing a little bit of teamwork here. I'll explain it to you in just a minute. If this truck makes a full pull, there's something weird going on in the sport. I'll tell you why. Look at this. Working the left side.
He's gone. Jack Daniels is out of there. Mark Hare's in the pull-off.
Okay, now, 3 vehicles in the pull-off are going to come back, built by the same man. The one guy that's not going to be back is Ken Lamont. Lamont is the guy that is really going to lose in this round.
Boy, that hurt him bad, as you mentioned. But when we come back, we're going to be going back in the Omni. More monster truck action. USA 1 tackling Buffalo Trimmer.
Transnational Mortgage. Okay, Monster Truck Maniacs, it's your chance to watch and win official TNT t-shirts just by being a third caller at 621-3030 in Ogden or 322-0317 in Salt Lake City. Call now and keep watching to win on Channel 30.
The TNT Monster Trucks invading Atlanta's Omni. We're into the quarterfinal round. Here's Chris Chapman to look at things for us.
2 points we need to make as we head into quarterfinal competition. First, Dennis Anderson and the Gravedigger, they're not going to be back. They're up to their usual antics with braking in first-round competition. And that breakage caused him to lose to Gary Wiggins and Mopar Magic. But the task gets even tougher for Mopar Magic as he goes up against Scott Stevens and King Crunch. The ever-improving Buffalo Trimmer is about to find out just how hurt Rod Litzow is. Jersey Outlaw advances as the fast loser to pit his Ford against the Chevy Carolina Crusher. And Thunder Chicken faces the Equalizer. We're looking at a possible Crusher-Equalizer war in the semifinals. Here's Scott Douglas and Army Armstrong with their call of the action. Guys, the semifinal round might be very important in deciding our world champion.
Boy, you're right on the money with that one, Chris. If Equalizer and Crusher do meet head-to-head, you know, Army, we could be seeing it come down to that race right there. But before we get to that point, we've got a dandy here with the King Crunch GMC, the Dodge of Gary Wiggins and Mopar Magic.
Crunch is going to have to be a favorite here because of the finish line into the track. Right there, you see what happens? He'll give you the first half of the race course, but the computer tells him exactly when to dial the horsepower in on the GMC. He does it, it works, he's going to the next round.
We're going to take another look at it right now. The computerized, state-of-the-art King Crunch from Woodlands, Texas. You can see Scott Stevens right out of the hole had Gary Wiggins' number in Mopar Magic. So the victory goes to Scott Stevens and King Crunch. Army's with him.
How about USA 1? You've been saying you wanted to get a hold of him.
Yeah, you know, we've only raced once this year, really, side by side, and he beat me. I beat him. You know, he never made the finals in Nashville to race it. You know, we're ready for him tonight.
Boy, that's going to be one that I'm going to look forward to seeing. If it happens, the problem for that scenario is that Buffalo Trimmer looks really strong.
Yeah, Buffalo Trimmer, this kid has really come a long way, and I'm proud of it. He's listened, he's looked. He's not taking a quantum leak. He's taking it one step at a time. But, man, every week he's further into this eliminations. However, right now he does have a pretty big step to get over. He's got to step and fetch it over USA 1 and Rod Litzow.
Interesting matchup. Everett Jasper really puts a lot in state-of-the-art truck, although it's beaten and banged up. He puts all kinds of knowledge into it. Buffalo Trimmer's working hard, but he's got that big motor. Rod Litzow gets him, though, in USA 1.
Yeah, Litzow showing nothing's going to rattle him.
Rod Litzow back in USA 1, and he has moved into the Final Four once again. Army's going to run over and catch up with Rod Litzow and talk to him about that run.
There's a real strong chance that a rivalry could be settled here in a few minutes. You and King Crunch, he's been wanting you all year long.
Yeah, but he's going to have to prove it out here.
Can you handle him?
I don't know. The track's feeling pretty good right now. I'm a little sore, but, you know, I think the name of the game on this track is you got to play it calm and cool. And if you do that, if you get anxious, you're going to override this track. And I'm just playing it calm and cool.
We'll see you in that next round. You know, it's kind of interesting, ladies and gentlemen. He just told me the hardest thing about driving a truck today, getting in and getting out of it.
That's for sure.
You can tell the problems with Litzow. It's not the cocky, confident guy we watched through the earlier streaks outside on the Monster Truck Challenge.
Well, no, and like we tried to point out in a rerun of the flip, they're flipping like sprint cars now. They're snap rolling and flipping, and a lot of velocity and a lot of impact these drivers are having to take. Speaking of drivers, here goes two of the best. One for Chevrolet, one for Ford.
Outlaw back is a fast loser to take on Carolina Crusher. Jersey Outlaw had the early edge, but Gary Porter got him right before the finish line. Carolina Crusher gets the victory and will move into the semifinals, possibly to meet Equalizer.
Well, Gary Porter, congratulations. You're moving one more round.
It was. I just about lost it to Jersey Outlaw that time. Before I was talking about easing over the hill, and I just about eased over, you know, a little bit too much, and it just about cost me the race.
Equalizer, strong possibility, you and him in the next round, and it's a must-win for you.
He is. I think it'll be me and Equalizer, and if it is, I'll guarantee I won't be easing over the hill that run.
Gary Porter throwing the gauntlet down, but before it can be accepted, the challenge can be accepted, David Morris must beat the Thunder Chicken.
You know, that may not be as easy task as a lot of people think. And I tell you what, the Thunder Chicken is going to tour with us in 1990. We're at the end of 1989. He's picked up 4 races here to test and tune. He's just checking it out. He's run outside with us on 2 occasions, made it to the final on both of them. Now we're going inside. The Thunder Chicken definitely could be the sleeper of the year, not only in 1989, but also in 1990.
He could have a major impact on the World Championship right here if he could upset Equalizer now. Gary Porter has got to be rooting hard for him.
Yeah, because Thunder Chicken you will see nowhere in the top 20 as far as points go. Equalizer, on the other hand, he's got everything to lose. Thunder Chicken, I guarantee you, is going to throw everything he's got at this kid.
Guarantee you, though, Morris also has an awful lot to gain. Here he goes. Boy, you can see it. He really got out of the hole.
Yeah, but Thunder Chicken's coming back. Not going to do it. Morris left quick. Boy, they're getting closer and closer to this doggone wall down here, Scott.
It's going to happen a little later. Equalizer and Carolina Crusher, a major race in determining the world champion.
Well, we're not pulling any bones about it. Gary Porter says he's going to hammer you to the wall. Whatever it takes, he's going to put you away today.
I'm really not worried about Porter today. I'm trying to hang on to the end of the season. I think I've got enough lead on him that I can finish. I want to finish ahead of him bad, but if I can't, I'm going to save the truck for the very last of these races. So I need to finish these races.
Crusher and Equalizer in the semifinals. We're looking forward to it. Hey, so is Mike Wine. The TNT All-American Pulling Series once again in Conocook, New Hampshire. This is really the culmination of the season, the summer pulling season for the 2-wheel drive super modifieds, the beautiful trucks that people really get a kick out of. I guess it's the funny cars, if you will, of pulling. They get so many different looks. We're into the pull-off, and 3 teammates have made the pull-off. It's all their show. First up, Ray Carpenter, who has got enough points to claim the national championship already. He's in Sundance Kid.
Yeah, what I'm going to do, I'm going to watch something here and see what happens. If it does, I'll tell you about it. Carpenter rolls out, not really calling on the engine. Okay, and what I call lays down. Now, what they're doing here, I'm going to make a prediction. They're going out, they being the Spike truck and the Jack Daniels truck and Sundance Kid, and they're trying to pull the Jack Daniels truck up into the top 5 in the national points chase. This truck probably will win the national championship. He's number 1. Spike is the Joker truck. Points are not that important to him. But because of sponsor commitments and everything, they want to get the Jack Daniels truck into the top 5. Now watch Bill Humphrey and see what he does. If he rolls out and lays down just like the Sundance Kid did, which is exactly what's going to happen right here. This is obvious. I tell you, it's very obvious, and from an announcer's viewpoint, I'm going to say something. It's very obvious, and I don't believe it's fair to the people that bought a ticket and sat in the grandstand to see a pull-off, because what you're going to see now, I bet my firstborn child on it, Jack Daniels is going to bang it further than any of these other 2 guys have so far. It just doesn't seem fair to me, Scott.
Here he goes, Mark Hare and Jack Daniels, and indeed, he's coming out strong. Let me put this in perspective for you. Wayne Roush in the yellow Model T, 5th in the national points. He knows already that he's going to finish 5th here today. Jack Daniels could have finished 3rd, but they made it easy for him to finish 1st. The win to Mark Hare and Jack Daniels. He picks up valuable points on Wayne Roush with 1 event to go. Again, everything above board, but certainly a kind of teaming up strategy. Here's Mark's comments.
Well, Ray ended up saying messed up a push rod there, and Jack's in the points for our other 2 trucks, so we really didn't want Spike to beat him, you know, so Jack was going to beat Spike no matter what.
Okay, so you only had to make past 233 and you had it?
Well, we just had to go past the flag. Since I was last in the pull-off, I had to go past the flag. We went past the flag and shut her down.
Mark Hare gets the win and picks up some points. Here's the standings. Sundance Kid basically just has to show up at the final event to win the championship. Ken Lamont strong in 2nd, but Bad Dog and Mike Stowe coming after his old buddy in the Plano Toolbox's Midnight Express. You saw where yellow Model T was. Well, now Jack Daniels, firmly in 6th, has picked up a lot of ground trying to get into the top 5 where they paid the big money in points at the end of the season. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Crusher and Equalizer battle for the World Points Championship. It's gut check time.
Welcome back to the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia for the semifinal round of racing on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. It's truly a superstar lineup in the semifinals. King Crunch gets a long-awaited chance to knock off a major rival, USA 1 and Rod Litzau. Then the 2 best monster trucks in the world, Carolina Crusher and Equalizer, take the points race into their own hands. Crusher needs a win here in the worst way to keep pace with the Equalizer. Here's Scott Douglas and Army Armstrong with their call of what ought to be a thrilling round of racing.
Steve Wilkie, the crew chief on USA 1. Next week, he'll be in the driver's seat. A banged-up Rod Litzow is driving today, but Wilkie takes over next week.
Yeah, but right now, Scott, it's hot Atlanta, not Atlanta. And it is going to be, look who's coming out. USA 1 represents Chevrolet, Keen Crunch for GMC. We're down to the final four, and it's just an old-time shootout. Wow.
USA 1 has been good all night despite the body damage, but as you have so well set up in your interviews, Army, King Crunch and Scott Stevens really wanting to beat USA 1 and wanting to beat Rod Litzow.
Yeah, for bragging rights, if nothing else, and he believes he can. Whoever wins this one is going to have a moral victory under their belt they can carry into 1990. Is it going to be GMC or Chevrolet? What's it look like, Scott?
Side by side, King Crunch has done it. Scott Stevens and King Crunch getting the victory over USA 1 and Rod Litzow. And you talk about a guy who's got to have a smile from ear to ear. It's Scott Stevens. He gets the win. Rod Litzow gave it a heck of a run, but came up short.
Rod Litzow, he said he was going to get you, and he's been gunning for you all year long.
Yeah, you know, that one there, all I did is I was looking at the ceiling and I had to back off it. And sometimes you get a bad bounce and come off that hill a little too strong. I got a bad bounce. She stood up. He did a good race.
Good job. We'll see you next week.
All right, thank you.
You know, Rod didn't give him a thing, though, did he?
He can talk about the ceiling all he wants, but he was going after that Texas.
Scott Stevens on the replay, clearly getting the victory, and he's a happy man. Army's going to go catch up with him.
I think you just proved your point.
Yeah, Army, you know, we've been working at it all year, and we've really found a combination now. We changed the gears a few times tonight, but I think we're heading in the right direction on this little indoor track.
How's it feel to beat USA 1?
That felt good. You know, we ran really competitive with him all year. We just had a lot of trouble, and, you know, Rod's had trouble, too. Everybody's had trouble to keep their trucks going, but we knew if we could keep it together, we could run with everybody, and that's what we're hoping for tonight here in Atlanta.
It's an awesome task putting on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge races in Atlanta's Omni. Chris Chapman has more on that with the Omni's Mike Ocean.
What's it like for TNT Motorsports to come in here and stage events?
Well, it's quite an undertaking. TNT's been with us now for 10 years. We've done the TNT, the truck pull. We've done the mud bog. This is our first time to have the monster truck races. But it was an interesting week for us. We just had NHL hockey in here on Tuesday and Wednesday night, the first time hockey has returned to Atlanta since 1980. So we had to completely rip out all the ice, which took us about 4 days to set up. It's been 10 years to do, so it took a little bit more extra effort. But it took us about 12 hours to really accomplish that and get the ice out and get the floor prepped in order for TNT to move the dirt in on Thursday afternoon.
Mike, obviously, the Omni is not limited to monster truck and ice hockey. What other type of events do you have here?
Well, when the building opened back in 1972, it was built with the purpose to host the Atlanta Flames hockey team of the NHL and also the Atlanta Hawks basketball team. But since then, we've had the 1977 NCAA Finals, we've had the 1988 Democratic National Convention, as well as a host of other special events, the Davis Cup back in 1980. And the circus, which does 23 performances. We've got the ice show that comes in for 10 performances each year, as well as professional wrestling, NWA, and WWF. We end up doing about 200 events a year and draw close to 2 million people.
And the TNT monster trucks, I guarantee you, make as much noise and put out as much power as anything the Omni sees year in and year out. Hey, it's great to have the world-class superstars of the sport in a world-class facility.
You know, I tell you something about Mike and his crew here at the Omni. They're class people to work with, and I can see why they can put on that many quality events. A good group of people, and they're serious about putting on a great event.
Let's talk about quality. Here you have it. The World Championship points leader, the equalizer, the man who's trying to catch him, Gary Porter's Carolina Crusher. A critical race in the battle for the world title.
Boy, side by side they lead. Look at this. A storybook ending. Carolina Crusher does exactly what he has to do, Scott. He puts away the equalizer.
Gary Porter gets the job done, and Carolina Crusher has put away the equalizer. Porter goes into the final.
Well, it's final time again. I think the old song goes, and you got a chance to keep the flag.
Thank you, Army. Equalizer, he gave me a run for my money that time. I give it everything I had, and I'm going for the points win.
You and Stevens in the final. Texas against North Carolina. GMC against Chevrolet. Can you handle him?
I think so. From my past outdoor races, I think I can. Indoors, I don't really know how to estimate them, but I think I can take the win.
Now to expand on and build on what he's just done, beating the equalizer, Crusher wants to beat King Crunch and win the Monster Smash Final. That's what's coming up next here on Tuff Trax. Final this week, the GMC known as King Crunch, Scott Stevens from Woodland, Texas. He's having to get a U-joint fixed and get inside. You see, inside the Omni, Alan Goss, the tech official, has the watch on him. He's got 5 minutes to get in, and it clearly looks like no problem. King Crunch is going to make it to take on Crusher with the final. But while he's working his way inside the Omni, we're going to bring you the Crunch of the Week.
Hold on to your seats for the amazing Crunch of the Week, brought to you by Micro Machines, the #1 colossally collectible vehicles in the world. If it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not the real thing.
Pueblo, Colorado, June 1988. Crunch of the Week, it's King Crunch versus Stomper. Watch Scott Stevens and King Crunch in the far lane. Over he goes. Scott Stevens, wild flip. Look at it one more time from Pueblo, Colorado. He gets up, up, and away, rolling it over for this week's Crunch of the Week. King Crunch has made it in the building. It's time for the Monster Smash. The starting line. There's the green light. King Crunch, Carolina Crusher. It's showtime.
Texas, North Carolina, Texas takes the win in under 5 seconds. Scott Stevens puts GMC in a winner's circle.
A great run for Scott Stevens. And man, he almost dug that nose right down into that last car. There he comes out, the winner, Scott Stevens and King Crunch. We're going to get another look at an outstanding side-by-side matchup. And boy, you know how great he feels up from Texas. Not only did he get the win in the Omni, he beat all the bad dogs to do it. He knocked Rod Litzow out, and then he put Gary Porter away. There's Scott with his son as he gets the victory. Army's going to go over and talk to your winner, Scott Stevens and King Crunch, who takes it all in Atlanta's Omni.
Scott Stevens takes the big win in Atlanta. Looks like your #1 fan was the first one down to congratulate you.
Yeah, he was out in the pits trying to help us a minute ago.
What was the problem back in the pit area?
We've got a bad pinion yoke. We broke the pinion last week, and the one we put in last week isn't right. And it's going to work, but it's just killing the U-joints.
Well, you get the silver flag. We'll be watching next week. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Army.
Getting a little help adjusting the helmet. Maybe he wants to grab the microphone. Well, Gary Porter doesn't like giving the silver flag up. He's going to have to do it, however. Finishing second, though, is still a pretty good accomplishment for him this week. Look at the air. King Crunch got the nosedive, and he straightens her right back up. But King Crunch gets the win. Gary Porter picks up valuable points. Crunch the big winner, but it was not a total loss for Gary Porter. Army's worked his way over now to talk with the driver of Carolina Crusher, Gary Porter, on tonight's run.
Well, Gary Porter, everybody's playing hardball against you out there. Nothing to be ashamed of, though, really.
It's not, you know, I would like to have won, but I didn't. King Crunch had a real good run, but I did what I wanted to do mainly, and that was to put the equalizer right before the finals.
Qualifying gets to be awfully important because even though you put him out, he still picked up some points on you through that qualifying session. You're closer, but not as close as you want to be.
Yeah, he picked up, I think it was 3 more points than me in qualifying, and I gained probably 3 or 4 points than him, you know, during the race today.
Thanks, Army. Carolina Crusher gained a precious 4 points on the equalizer today, but Gary Porter has just 4 races remaining to catch David Morris. USA 1, Gravedigger, and Nightlife round out the top 5. Mad Dog, No Problem, Clydesdale, and Wild Hair remain in the top 10. And with a strong performance next week, today's winners, Scott Stevens and King Crunch, should be able to knock Awesome Kong out of the top 10. Scott Douglas, what's in store for our fans next week here on Tuff Trax?
Next week, Steve Wilkie takes over the driving chores for Rod Litzow in USA 1. And of course, Carolina Crusher's struggle to catch equalizer continues. But for now, the glory goes to Scott Stevens and King Crunch. For Army Armstrong and Chris Chapman, I'm Scott Douglas. Check us out next week, right here on Tuff Trax.